welcome everyone. I'm delighted to welcome our speakers for today. We've got Chloe and Dennis from the King's Awards team down in London, who are really busy kind of promoting the awards at present, and they're going to give us an overview of the process around applications and talk a little bit around how you make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to be selected. We're then going to speak to Daniel from the Quiet Site. The Quiet Site, as many of you will know, have been winners in 2024 most recently, but they've also won in previous years as well. This year they've won the Sustainable Development category. So looking forward to hearing from Daniel about the journey that the Quiet Site are on, and also around their experience of applying and winning. Delighted to also welcome today Matt from Createch. Again, a 2024 winner from Cumbria. They've won the Innovation Award this year, and again, a previous winner. So really interested to hear about their journey and their experience. So that's our speakers for the session. So without any further ado, I think I'll pass over to Chloe and Dennis, who are going to kick us off with a double act and share a few slides.
Thank you, Paul. Can I just check that those slides are sharing okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Go. There we go. That should all be okay now. Thank you so much to Paul and Lucy for arranging this event today. And thank you also to Cumbria Lieutenancy and to our two recent King's Awards recipients who we have joining us to tell us more about their personal journey with the awards. We're really excited to be able to tell you about the awards this year and how you yourself or how you can help other businesses in Cumbria to apply for the awards this year. So just to give you a bit of an introduction about the awards, they are the most prestigious awards for UK businesses, and they really are a globally recognised royal seal of approval for UK companies. The late Duke of Edinburgh actually first created the awards back in 1965, and since then we've had over 8,000 companies achieving the award. Last year, after Her late Majesty's passing, we rebranded as the King's Awards for Enterprise, as His Majesty the King was really keen to continue recognising and celebrating UK companies. The name change is reflected in our new emblem, which you can see here, and you can see how our winners use this emblem on all of their marketing materials later on in the presentation. So a bit about the award background. So there are 4 categories that businesses can apply for, and you can also apply for more than one category if you wish to do so. Later on in the presentation, Dennis and I will be talking you through the specific eligibility criteria for each category. But just to give you a brief overview, the innovation category recognises commercially strong, successful, innovative products or services that have been on the market for 2 years or more. We then have our international trade category, and that's our most well-known category, the longest standing category as well, that we receive the most applications for, and that recognises substantial growth in overseas earnings and commercial success within your sector. We then have sustainable development, which recognises sustainable interventions, products or services that have been running for 2 years or more. And then lastly, we have our newest category, which is promoting opportunity through social mobility. And this category recognises and celebrates employers that have a high quality social mobility initiative in place that specifically reaches out to and supports people from disadvantaged backgrounds. This year, we had 252 awards issued across all 4 of our categories, including 5 double award recipients, so they won in 2 categories. We don't have an upper limit on the number of recipients or applications that we receive each year, so we would love to have as many as possible. It's also worth noting that 89% of this year's recipients were SMEs and 15% were micro businesses, so 10 employees or less. So I really want to emphasise that we really would love to accept applications from small businesses all the way up to very large companies. So please do not be put off if you think you are too small. We have many very small family-run businesses that have just or 2 to 5 employees that win the awards every year. So why do we think you should apply for a King's Award? Now, we have two brilliant winners with us today who will be sharing your story. But from our perspective, the King's Award is a trusted mark that provides immediate and long-term business benefits. The emblem can be used on all of your products, marketing materials for a full 5-year period whilst you are a recipient. Applicants have told me personally that having this royal endorsement has enabled them to be recognised above and beyond their competition, particularly when establishing new markets overseas. They've said that companies in the US and Asia are so excited to be working with a company that has been personally approved by His Majesty the King. One company told me that they actually use the image of themselves meeting the king, such as on the screen here, as their WhatsApp picture, because they do a lot of business transactions and making new relationships over WhatsApp, and it always sparks interest and conversation. Another told me that they flew to America to discuss a new product deal, and all the company in the US wanted to talk about was their recent King's Award and whether they had met the King. There are many business awards out there, particularly sector specific or local to your area, but the King's Award really do sit above all of the others, and they really are recognised all across the world and prove that you are an outstanding British company. The award also provides a great boost to staff morale. So unlike other awards, this one recognises the work of every member of staff in the company. Recipients tell us that it not only helps them to retain their valued staff, but to attract new, highly skilled staff as well. Recipients tell us that it helps increase sales and growth, access to new clients, and a great media opportunity as well. In terms of celebrating the success, it is a fantastic media opportunity, whether it's at the time of the announcement on the 6th of May when we announce the list of companies who have been successful, or when it is a member of your company is invited to a royal reception, which this year is being held at Windsor Castle. Again, it's a fantastic media opportunity and a great chance to attract local and national press coverage. Both of our channels and our department's media channels completely exceeded the benchmarks on announcement day this year, and we had a huge range of fantastic press coverage nationwide. In addition to an invitation to the royal reception, each business is presented with a trophy and a grant of appointment scroll by their local Lord Lieutenant at their place of work. So please do take a look at our social media, because it's a really great, there's some really great images on there, some great case studies where you can learn about other businesses who have been successful. I'm now going to pass over to Dennis, who's going to give you some more key dates and facts about the awards. Oh, sorry, Dennis,
you're on mute, Dennis.
Good afternoon. My name's Dennis, and I'd like to take you through a few of these slides. Okay, so this slide shows a breakdown per region spread of applications we have received. So Greater London, London and the Southeast is the region where we receive most applications for each round. As you will know, we've had two successful award winners in Cumbria, Createch Limited and the Quiet Site, and we look forward to sharing their joy in their presentation later on. Next slide, please. So this slide displays the annual cycle. So the 2025 round applications opened on the 6th of May and will close on the 12th of September at midday. All applications are submitted online, but it may be helpful to download a PDF of the application form for planning and preparation purposes. Applications are assessed by a team of assessors, and these assessors have experience and expertise. So there's a different team of assessors for each category. In November, shortlisted applicants are notified that they have been shortlisted, and for international trade and innovation only, applicants are asked to provide verification of the financial information they have provided, and this by an independent accountant or auditor. Due diligence check. So this is a very important part of the procedure. So the application form in section A gives details of and also lists the government departments. I think there's 41 in total, where we will be carrying out due diligence checks. So it is, as I said, an important part of the application process. And one of the most important parts of this is that a company has good compliance records with HMRC. The next stage of the process is the judging panel. So there are 4 judging panels which meet in the 4 weeks of January. They are made up of expertise in their fields, and also they are volunteers. So so the assessor's recommendations in the form of a case summary is sent to the panel judges. Unfortunately, it's sent in the 2nd week of December, and it makes Christmas reading for them. So they also spend a lot of time looking through the websites of businesses and comparing it with the case summary. And they are all volunteers. In February, the Prime Minister's Advisory Committee meets, and they are the committee that oversees the recommendations that have been made by the 4 judging panels. Then in March, a list of the recommendations is sent to the Prime Minister for consideration, and before it's been submitted to His Majesty the King for his personal approval. The awards are officially announced to the national and regional press on the 6th of May, and to mark the anniversary of His Majesty the King's Coronation Day. So this slide is talking about the eligibility criteria. So the King's Awards for Enterprise is a self-nominating process and is open to all UK businesses and organisations who meet the eligibility criteria. The slide shows the overarching eligibility criteria for the awards. So the key point to note is the need for a business to have 2 full-time employees or part-time equivalents. So a business must, any business of any size can apply, and we've had 89% of the businesses that were awarded in 2024 have been small and medium-sized enterprises. So it's free to enter, and applying for a King's Award is a straightforward online process. There are a few of the criteria which are applicable across the 4 categories, and this is A, to be based in the UK, that's including the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man, have a good continuous compliance record with HMRC or the relevant tax authority, be a self-contained enterprise under its own management and accounts, have at least 2 full-time employees or part-time, equivalence, and demonstrate outstanding environmental, social, and governance responsibilities. So with ESG, assessors will be looking for the impact of the business on the environment and society and its good working relationship with its workforce and customers. Applicants can be a business or non-profit. Each category has its own specific eligibility criteria, which will be covered later in more detail. These details also can be found on the King's Awards for Enterprise website. Next slide, please. So this is application guidance, and just be going through some of the top tips. So top tips for applicants having met the eligibility criteria, which is the first part of the questionnaire. So once registered on the application system, this allows the applicant to download a PDF version of the application form, which often is ideal for planning and preparation purposes and can be shared with colleagues. So one of the best tips is to use plain English. Avoid technical jargon. Applications must be easy to read and be understood by the assessing team, even if not necessarily experts in the particular sector. So provide evidence, both quantitative and qualitative, to support all statements. I would like to emphasize the importance of telling your success story and in your own words. The assessors want to hear about your personal journey. Why did you start the business, and the key drivers to have made your business a success? Add collaborators to your account. So this allows colleagues to help contribute to an interesting application, as well as it ensures someone else has access to the application in any absence. And the last point on this is, do make sure you have allowed sufficient time to complete the application. We get numerous questions in the last week of the application stage asking for an extension to the application date, which is not possible. Next slide, please. So this slide is again giving you some application guidance, but focused more on innovation. So in the innovation category, the assessors want to know why the innovation is unique and how it has benefited the business and its customers and others. So a key thing to note in the innovation, the key thing to note is the innovation and how long it has been on the market. It has to be on the market for at least 2 years. So make sure the product is well described. What specific is the innovation and how has it been developed? What challenges and difficulties were overcome and what the benefits of the innovation are. Present the innovation clearly with a reasonable level of technical details, but avoid technical jargon. Marketing language found in brochures should not be included, and this should be avoided. Very often people just cut and paste. The questions in the application form have been placed in an order to help tell a story. Provide evidence when claims are made in terms of the benefits of the innovation. Supporting evidence and quantifiable data or testimonials are of value to the assessing team. And with the commercial section, applications can fail when commercial success is not demonstrated. So show how sales have increased and markets penetrated is an ideal part of a good application. So assessors will be looking for on returns on any investments. So if evidence is not obvious in the financial data, provided it needs to be explained in the narrative. Next slide, please. So this is international trade. So international trade is the category where we have the largest number of applications on each round, and it is the easiest, shall I say, or the clearest to follow. So for international trade, an applicant can submit financial data for either a period of 6 years, showing substantial growth, or a period of 3 years showing steep growth. But the minimum starting point is £100,000 in sales in the first year of entry. Assessors are experts in international trade, but need to be advised of the individual company's business. So that's a good story. And it's also so best to explain why the international trade has been so important to the business. I would also advise it's ideal to read through the PDF form carefully so that you can plan of what information is needed. So you can create a plan of what information is needed. The form is designed again to take the applicant through a journey. So plan the journey with the questions and avoid repetition. Show the pattern of growth throughout the business. There must be no dips over the 3 or the 6 years of the figures shown. Every business is different. There is no simple answer regarding the rate of increase. Assessors take each business on its merits. Its size of the business, the sector they operate in, and the market they sell to are all considered. Businesses can explain what decisions were taken to attract new markets. How did the business succeed in selling to a particular market, the vision for a new market, and how international trade has developed and improved the business are all pointers which add value. Over to you, Chloe, please.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Dennis. I'm just going to pick up on the other 2 categories now. I know we're a bit short of time. Am I okay to keep going for now, Paul? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Thank you. So the next category that we have is promoting opportunity through social mobility. So as mentioned, this category recognises employers have a particular program in place to reach out and support those from disadvantaged backgrounds. So importantly with this category, you must have an enterprise part of your business to be eligible. So unfortunately, if your core purpose is to provide promoting opportunity, you won't be able to apply for this category. In simple terms, you must have an enterprise part of your business and then a social mobility program in place on top of that to support either your own employees or others around you. What this does mean is that if you do have social mobility as your core purpose, for example, if you're a training provider, you can apply as a joint entry. So if you are a training provider that works quite closely with a bank, or you're a company that have been set up such as a not-for-profit, particularly to support individuals, but you work with a local business to help them get into work, you can apply as a joint application. It's really critical that applicants focus on why you are supporting these individuals and the impact that the programme has had. So our assessors really want to know about the programme and the intervention. It can cover a range of things, such as a business recruitment process, work experience or careers advice, mentoring or coaching, or interview related skills. So really importantly, you should be able to show KPIs for the programme. So many applicants tell us that they don't necessarily track the KPIs against their programme, and they're just generally a really great business. They have lots of social mobility systems in place. However, this category recognises specific programs or initiatives. So if you are doing one of those things, you should really be tracking those KPIs and tracking the impact. So that is what our assessors are looking to see. So please do talk about the KPIs. Please do clearly emphasise on what the programme is, why it's been set out, why you decided to support this group of individuals. And please provide details on the evaluation of the programme. How have these individuals changed since they started on the programme? What has their journey been? What is the impact of it now? And what do you plan to do with the programme going forward? We really also want to see how the programme has not only benefited those within the initiative, but also the wider organisation, the community, your staff, and your workforce. So perhaps it has improved the employability of the people on the programme, and just in general has made your business a much better place to work. We have some really good examples of this category as well, because I know there can be a few grey areas. So if anyone has any specific questions on this category, I'll be happy to answer them afterwards. Lastly, we have sustainable development. So this category recognises sustainable development programmes, initiatives or products that have been going for 2 years or more. So for this category, our assessors will look at the proportionate size of your business, and they will consider the size and the scale of your business when reviewing your application forms. So please do answer the questions to the best of your ability. Expectations for sustainable development now are much higher than they were years ago. So we really are looking for those modern standards for those who are really pushing the boundaries in your sector. We're looking for businesses and leadership teams who are really leading the way in sustainability. So from the top senior managers all the way through to your staff, your customers, your supply chains, everyone should be demonstrating sustainable development. Applicants should be considering carbon sensibly. So all companies should be considering their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, and larger companies should also be considering their scope 3 emissions as well. There are many phrases throughout the application form, such as circular economy, B Corp, net zero, carbon capturing. Please do research these before answering the questions. Hopefully, if you are truly sustainable, you will know a lot about these phrases already, and when we ask you for the benchmarking against those, you will be able to answer those respectively. Please again do get in touch if you do have any questions or if you're uncertain of anything in the application form. Lastly, B Corp status is not essential. However, our assessors do look for the companies that are working towards B Corp status. We have moved away from the 3 R's of sustainability, such as reduce, reuse and recycle, and we now ask applicants to look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, we don't expect you to be meeting all of those, particularly if you are a smaller business, but we would ask that you are at least meeting some of those, or that you are on your way to doing so. And just quickly, a quick recap on how to apply. So as Dennis mentioned, it is a free online application process, and you can apply for more than one category if you wish to do so. We have our website there, and we close for applications on the 12th of September. So please do go online and register today, even if it's just so that you can do the eligibility questionnaire to find out if you are eligible. And then, as Dennis mentioned, you can download the application forms. I'll just leave our contact details there. But just to summarise, we are a small friendly team of 5 that sit within the Department for Business and Trade. We're always very happy to speak to anyone who has any questions about the process. We have a helpline and a mailbox for those queries, and we also have our social media there, which have some great case studies as well. But thank you very much, and we'll now hopefully hear from our 2 excellent recipients from this year. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you to Chloe and Dennis for a really comprehensive and detailed overview there. And I think we can make these slides available, I think, afterwards, can't we? So I can see a few people scribbling notes down, which is great, but we'll share the slides as well, so you've got everything you need to follow up on. If you do have any questions for Chloe or Dennis, please put them in the chat and we'll come to those after we've heard from our other speakers. But I'd like now to introduce Daniel from the Quiet Side, who's going to tell us a bit about the business and also their experience with applying for and being successful with the King's Awards. So Daniel, over to you.
Oh, thanks very much, Paul. My name's Daniel Holder, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you this afternoon. I'm the Managing Director of the Quiet Site, and I've been asked to give you a quick run through about the Quiet Site's history, and then follow up talking about our experience with the King's Award, why we applied, how the application experience went, what winning 2 awards meant to myself, my team, our customers, and indeed our industry. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you'll find it reasonably interesting. Lucy, can we maybe start off with some slides? Is that okay? Thank you. So, okay, yeah. So I bought the Quiet Site 20 years ago after a career in engineering and an even shorter career as a jockey. Next slide, please, Lucy. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay. No, yes. The park occupies an old sheep farm that dates from the 17th century. So the next slide will be going reasonably quickly, if that's okay with the slides. So yeah, my first project sadly wasn't the sexy one I'd been envisaging as a new business owner. Our sewage system was failing, and we needed to find a replacement that would work consistently well and grow with us, yet was reasonably affordable. Off-the-shelf package systems were being priced to take account of our peak flow rates, and the quotes were actually, in some cases, more than I'd actually paid for the business. The answer came in the form of reed beds. We've now got 4, totaling 1,200 cubic meters, and dirty water takes around about 6 weeks to get from one side to the other. And then once the water has all been cleaned, it's pumped back up, and we use it again to flush the toilets with. Advantages of using a natural way of cleaning our water with reed beds are they're a great environment for wildlife. No electricity is needed, and because of the long time constant, sort of weeks rather than hours, any systems failure can be dealt with in a timely fashion. Disadvantages include maintenance. It can be a reasonably mucky affair, and very long negotiations with the Environment Agency. Next slide, please, Lucy. We'll talk a little bit about energy now. So our next project as the new custodians of the Quiet Site were re-roofing the service block, bottom left-hand corner. We re-roofed with solar thermal panels, 35 square meters. So these take heat directly from the sun and heat hot water. Today, these panels produce annually 4% of our total energy requirements. So a really good business investment that's simple, reliable, cost-effective, and of course sustainable. Next, we introduced a biomass boiler, bottom right-hand corner. We replaced 6 oil and gas boilers with this biomass boiler. It's quite a small one, only 90 kilowatts, but next to it is a huge amount of water storage. We store 15,000 litres of hot water, which is enough to last our business around about 24 hours. So in the same way as we increase the time constant for the sewage treatment, we've also increased the time constant for our heating, so again, that helps with sort of operationally, shall we say. The biomass produces around 41% of our energy requirements today. The centre picture shows the ground source heat pump going in 2020. We put that in during lockdown, and ground source heat pumps are again a great way of sustainably generating heat, especially when combined with solar PV. Next slide, please, Lucy. Okay, so we've been investing in highly insulated accommodation for a decade. On the left, the simple camping pods that are made just down near Kendal. And then on the right-hand side there, our own self-built hobbit holes. So these are sort of underground affairs, triple insulated again. And then in the centre, we've been investing in these, again, locally made sort of glamping cabins. These are made in Lancaster. The next project, if you go to the next slide, we built, if you like, this is the epitome of what we're looking for. So these are energy positive glamping units. So the roofs are solar PV, and they're all heated via a district heat main from the a remote plant room. And that remote plant room runs from biomass, solar thermal, and ground source heat pump. We call them gingerbread houses, and again, they've been really well received. The fact that they generate more energy than they use means that we can call them energy positive. And on the roofs, we've managed to sneak nearly 100 kilowatts of solar PV. So we've nearly got a solar farm without actually having to have a solar farm in a remote place. It's all on the roofs of the buildings that we built. The embedded carbon in these buildings we think is mitigated because they've got a long and very flexible life. They can be repurposed really easily. Next slide, please. So in 2018, we built a zero waste shop, and with this, we've managed to cut single-use plastic to virtually zero. And we've also been able to influence both our customers and our supply chain. So suppliers have either had to change the way they work and supply things without single-use plastic, or lose us as a customer. Zero waste shops are also excellent at reducing food waste. If you see in the bottom left-hand corner there, we often see people just come in and actually fill their bowls up straight from the gravity dispensers, which is great. A little bit like actually turning the clock back 50 years. And since we opened the zero waste shop, we've seen significantly less waste. Next slide, please. Yeah, so around 15% drop in recycling and zero waste. So that's been a great thing. Next slide. So all these, and the next slide. Slightly wrong. And the next slide. Sorry, I think it's slightly in the wrong order there. Yeah, so all these initiatives fit together to form a business that's well on its way to becoming a carbon zero. It's taken 20 years of hard work and a real investment in time. Next, you can go back one slide now, please. Thank you. Yeah, sustainable transport is another area that we're really keen to tackle. I'm a founding member of SITU, which stands for Sustainable and Integrated Transport for Ullswater. Car numbers are set to double in the next few decades, and without action to get people out of their cars, our valley is going to become gridlocked quite quickly. To date, SITU has undertaken a number of projects. Firstly, we've opened a new footpath from Penrith train station through to our valley, requiring multiple landowners' permissions. And in 2023, we started a bus service linking accommodations with attractions. In 2024, we added a second bus to that service, which links Ullswater to Keswick, and then on to Penrith Station. And we've managed to do this really by in two ways. Firstly, applying for lots of grants, but secondly, by getting all of our local businesses to pledge money towards the service. At the moment, we've just got over 30 local businesses that pledged more than £50,000 to take care of any shortfall that we might see in the fair income and the costs, the difference between the costs and the fair income. So, and of course, because those people have invested, serious amounts of money, it's in their interest to make this service work. So instead of just us trying to make it work, we've now got all of the local businesses trying to get it to go as well. So far this year, we've, and this is just weekends from Easter and bank holiday Mondays, we've transported more than 3,500 passengers. So that's going really well. Situ's ambitions are to provide safe and easy travel from Penrith to Ullswater via bicycle, safe family-friendly cycle routes around the valley, an extensive bike hire loan scheme, and in consultation with local communities, businesses and relevant authorities, we'd like to set up a park and ride scheme, which is a little bit controversial with our local national park, but it's something we feel really needs to happen. Bearing in mind that 80% of the cars entering our valley are day trippers, and so they need somewhere to leave their cars. We'd like to see a more imaginative use of technology to help residents and visitors plan more sustainable travel, smaller and more frequent vehicles, and we'd like to see the lake become a transport corridor in its own right. And finally, both visitors and locals choosing to leave their cars at home or in car parks because they have access to more frequent and affordable transport, lift sharing schemes or safer roads. So we're not proposing essentially a car-free valley, but just one where the vast majority of visitors and locals choose to leave their cars at home and move around by bike, bus, boot or boat. So we go, I think, is it back one slide? Yeah, so does it pay? Well, is it worth it? Energy costs have been slashed, return on investment has been reduced. We're working with modern technology that's generally more pleasant to deal with, and we've had some reasonable exposure from awards. Where do we see the quiet site in 20 years? Well, our energy infrastructure is geared up to respond quickly and easily to new heat sources via remote plant rooms and local district heat mains. Our accommodations offer a modern and easily operated high quality visitor experience in well-insulated accommodations that can be repurposed easily. And from a sustainability and increasingly an economic point of view, it makes more sense for us to provide overnight accommodation for our guests rather than them bringing their accommodations with them. And glamping's given us a chance to move away from traditional statics and tourists, and so I think we're reasonably well placed. And that's a quick run through of the quiet side. So if we move on seamlessly, so that's the end of the slideshow, Lucy, so we can go back away from there. So if we now talk a little bit about what the King's and indeed the Queen's Award have meant to us. Why did we apply? How did the application process go? And what did winning and indeed losing mean to us? So firstly, why did we apply? Well, one of the great challenges to a business like ours is how it stands out from the crowd. We all do social media, newsletters, etc., but winning awards seems to just mean something more to our customers. It makes a real difference. We're no strangers to awards. We've entered many and won a couple. We don't do it for vanity, but I think they're a real way, one of the best ways of actually promoting and energizing any business. Two reasons for this, really. Firstly, the application process makes you examine and re-examine how you do things, why you do things. So applications actually promote thought. And secondly, if you're lucky enough to win, then the exposure raises you above your competitors. The more awards you enter, the more you have to think. And then if things go to plan, the better and more successful your business becomes. It's a positive cycle. The King's Award application process is by a county mile the most searching one we've ever experienced. Allow, if you're going to undertake it, at least 40 hours of joined up thinking. Hard work. It is a real investment in time. You know your business better than anyone, so probably subbing it out to an agency won't cut it. And so my top tip, or my only tip really, is start early. Think in terms of months rather than weeks. We received a Queen's Award back in 2020, and in 2023 we applied for two. One was successful and the other not. And actually the feedback from the unsuccessful application was really, really helpful. The judges are all excellent, and their comments were really thought-provoking, so thank you for that. I was helped with my application by a lovely neighbour and friend, and when finished, the structure, I think, of the application was not unlike a short story. I think St. Dennis mentioned in his presentation, it certainly does flow like a little novel. Before submitting, I forwarded our completed application forms to a couple of friends who run local businesses along the same lines as us, and they were really generous with the time and made some excellent suggestions. And as such, I'm happy if anybody wants to forward any completed applications for me to have a look at, or even discuss it before you do so. I'm very happy to do that, just to pay back the experience that we received from people when we were undertaking the application. We provided some letters of support for the application from MP, RMP, industry experts, and our customers. And I'd say our King and Queen's Award have given us national and international recognition. We've certainly managed to increase the number of international visitors as a direct result of this award, or these awards. And as far as I know, we're actually the only holiday park to have ever won one, so that's quite an achievement. What's it mean to our team? Well, our team have become really engaged and proud. Our customers are being given more confidence to invest in us, and our reasonably complacent holiday park industry is having to take another small step towards a better future because of what we've done. Okay, so what else? Well, the trip to Windsor Castle, when I went a couple of years ago, was absolutely surreal. I mean, if you think idyllic castle, flaming torches, we went at night, it was all lit up. It was unbelievable, actually. Kings and queens strolling around, and princes and what have you. Butlers everywhere. Post-COVID, I think that the rules are slightly different now. We weren't allowed to take any partners. And I was a bit upset. Obviously, my wife was a bit upset as well. But actually, what it meant was when you got there, everybody wanted to talk to you. So from being quite a closed evening, it opened everything up, and I had some fabulous conversations with different people that I would have never met otherwise. And then sort of lastly, I think thriving businesses create vibrant communities, and winning this award has really helped us to thrive. I think it's really good if you love your business. It helps certainly in the application, and this award it's not just about being good, it's about being excellent. I've got a new business at the planning stage at the moment, and I would really love to make the journey again from planning board through to Windsor Castle, hopefully one day. And so if you're looking for a really prestigious award in the UK, then this is the one for you. It's internationally recognised as a long-term commitment to excellence. And it's a little bit, I think, if you had to describe it in a line, it's a little bit like having your business knighted. But lastly, I suppose for me, the icing on the cake was that, my mum was absolutely chuffed that, we'd been invited. So that's it. But thank you very much for listening. And, hopefully that wasn't too dull. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. That was fantastic. Really, really interesting insight into your business journey and your experience with the awards as well. So thank you for that, and congratulations. Really, really great achievement. So we'll come back with some questions, I think. But if we can move on now to Matt from Createch, our other successful winner for this year. So Matt, over to you.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm just going to try and work out how to show my slides. That working?
Yes.
Always a relief. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about the backstory to Createch, where the business came from and where we are now. And then I'll show you a little bit about what we do. So it's quite a personal story for me. Createch's now 14 years old, and it has its beginnings in the very early days of my career. I was actually an academic originally, not a business person, working in robotics applied to the field of medicine. And I'd been quite successful. Things were working out all right as an academic. I'd got myself a position at a good university. I was publishing papers. The papers were being received well. I was getting grant applications funded. And in principle, I had the makings of a good academic. But I found I actually became very frustrated because I realized that what motivated me wasn't my career or publishing things. It was actually having an impact on the world through the technology that I was developing. And that's a really hard thing to do from within a university. It was harder then than it is now. So that has been broadly recognized, and academia has made some significant strides in that area, not least because of the pressure it's been put under through its modern funding model. But in those days, I couldn't see a way forward for myself in academia, simply for that reason. And I wanted to find out how do you do this? How do you make it so that the technologies you're working on actually turn into things that people can buy and get used to make people's lives better in some way or another? And so I left academia actually in the middle of a contract and set out to do that. Now, my family were from the area and were fortunate enough to know of some local businesses that had a reputation for being very entrepreneurial and for supporting people who wanted to explore that side of themselves. So I simply wrote them a letter and said, would you consider taking me on? I don't know anything about what you do, but maybe you can train me and you won't have to pay me much. I just want to learn. So that was almost 20 years ago now. That business was called React Engineering. And I think probably within a year of React Engineering, I'd spotted an idea for a technology related to the nuclear industry. I'd convinced them to give me a small amount of funding to back the development of that. And I'd gone out and I'd proved that it worked and found some customers and started to get a little bit of traction. But that also started to change the nature of that business. That wasn't actually a technology business. And it was at that point we said, okay, something's happening here. Let's take this to one side and make it a business in its own right. And that's where Createch came from. So Createch was founded 14 years ago now, really with this idea of trying to continue that model. So we wanted to create a virtuous cycle where we invest in innovation, successfully commercialize the innovation, and then reinvest what comes back from that directly into innovation. And that's quite an unusual business model in itself. I sometimes refer to it as an economically sustainable model. The traditional model for technology is you ask a rich person for their money, you invest that into technology, and if the technology is successful, you give it all back to them times 10. So it's a tool for making very rich people even more very rich than they already were. I don't have a problem with people being wealthy, but I don't think that's a very good model for the advancement of technology, because those very rich people don't really know that much about it, and you're relying on their judgment. I thought, why not create a system where people who are good at part of this process can keep on doing the part of the process that they're good at, and the money can just come straight back around without it coming out of somebody's private bank account along the way. So that was really the model with Createch, and that's what we've made work for us. And I think it's quite unusual that we've managed to grow every single year for 14 years. We've managed to make a profit every single year for 14 years. And we've managed to sustain the sort of growth rate that conventional wisdom says you can't attain in technology business without cash injection. And yet we've managed to demonstrate that you can consistently do that if you're willing to be open-minded about the models that you use. So these days, we've started off as a team of 3 people. We're now 55. We're headquartered here in Cumbria. We have a satellite office in Oxford and 2 regional offices in Japan and Norway, which are 2 of our main export markets. We're now a predominant exporter. The majority of our business is outside of the UK. In terms of Cumbria itself, we're a vast majority exporter, and relatively little of our business is now within the county. So mostly we're facing outwards, bringing business into the county from elsewhere in the UK, but generally speaking, elsewhere on the planet. And the way that we do that is by looking for the opportunities to apply new and emerging technologies in our field to our customer set, which is really infrastructure owners. So we started out in the nuclear industry, which is obviously a big thing here in Cumbria. But from that experience, we've branched out into other parts of the nuclear industry that aren't local to us, and other industries which are related. So that includes other forms of energy, but also high infrastructure transport systems such as aviation and rail. And it's also very important to us, the entrepreneurial process that we follow, that we try to promote. So we put a large amount of our profits actually back into not just the technology, but actually training our staff in the entrepreneurial process. So we have a program called Fusion, which has just completed. It's a 2-year training program for a cohort of people. We've just completed the second year of that, the second cohort of that. And that's all about trying to allow people to step back from the day job and understand the economic ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem within which their specific jobs work, and help them to understand how the whole process is working, so that they can begin to direct it to a purpose and begin to lead their own innovations. And that's led to us having, as well as our own regional businesses, we also have now 2 spin-outs. One is another robotics adjacent company, so similar to Createch. The other one's in football, if you would believe that. I think there's hardly anyone in this business who's interested in football, and yet our spin-off has become the main provider of sports data to the Premier League and various other football leagues around the world. Well, I've stolen my own thunder here. I'll just skip that slide. The technologies that we work with are, well, originally radiometric, so that's measuring radiation and translating those measurements into the sorts of facts that you would need to make decisions. My skill set was actually originally in that area, so I was looking at nuclear medicine originally, but the physics is the same physics, so that applies equally well to the nuclear industry. And coming into the nuclear industry from a medical background, I was immediately able to see various sort of concepts that were being applied in nuclear, but they weren't being applied in nuclear, and start to understand where those concepts may have some value, where you might be able to do things with them. We then expanded from that point to include other types of sensing, and then increasingly we found we were using robots to deploy these sensors, and that actually we'd become rather expert in that process, and diversified further into robotics, building a robotics team back in 2017, I think, and robotics has actually now become the mainstay of our business. So that's actually what our innovation award this time was recognising, was the investment and the successful growth generated through our robotics products. So I think what really makes us what we are, it's not the technologies themselves. So, I hope that 100 years from now, there's still something like Createch that can trace its roots back to this group of people around. And I doubt it'll be doing anything to do with robots or the nuclear industry, but I think it will embody these values. These are what make us what we are. And I think that the top 2 are really the king: the creativity, the innovation. That's what drives us, it's what motivates us, it's why we're here. And impact, actually changing something, actually making something better, that's our reason for doing it, and that's our scorecard. If we only know that we're getting the first one right when it delivers the second one. And then daring and integrity, those are the things you'll need to make that a success. And I think that's why I like the King's Award so much, actually, is they, through the Innovation Award and the International Trade Award, they directly measure those first 2 things. So it's important, if you're winning the Innovation Award, that you've got something to say about your creative process, about the insight, about the innovation. There's got to be a great story there. But unlike the other Innovation Awards you'll see out there, a great story on its own is not enough. it is quantified. You've got to be able to demonstrate that you invested and that the investment has been recouped or is going to be recouped, and that it's driving a real change in the world, in your growth or in your customers. So impact is, measured, and the due diligence on these awards is meaningful. They ask for independent financial data to back up the claims that you're making. And I really get a buzz myself every time because you have your down days when you're running a business. But every time I see an internal email, it's got that little symbol on the end. It gives me a little lift, because it reminds me that what we're achieving, what we're working for, has been recognised. It is a real demonstrable thing. These awards are not easy to get, and it gives you a little boost. So I think if it makes me feel like that, it must be making other people feel like that. And it's it's a meaningful badge. Also, when we do a lot of partnering with other companies. We work with a lot of other technology providers and integrators. We work with a lot of power companies and other infrastructure owners. And I know that when we're out and about, if we meet another company and that company has the King's Award badge, we can expect that we're going to be able to have a good relationship with that company. That's going to be an ambitious, successful, well-run company with a good, positive culture and sound British values. And I've yet to see an exception to that. When I came across a company which has this award, I always know it's a company that we can work with and that we'd be proud to be working with. Because everyone likes a little bit of technology, here's an example of some of the stuff that we've actually been doing in robotics. So this video was made by a robot, and it's a video of a robot, or these guys in this case. These guys are trying desperately not to get to this place where the robot is. So that the idea of this project, which is at 3 Mile Island in the in the US, is that we're trying to understand what's happened in the previously flooded basement of the reactor that nobody's been to for 40 years, to enable the current owners to plan for the safe decommissioning of this plant. So sending people to anywhere on the floor of this building is a total non-starter. The whole thing has to be done by robots. Let me just see if I can restart this video again. Just to have stopped. Can I just check you're seeing this, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can do.
Great. So these two fellows, so these are on the floor, these two guys are on the floor above. They're working in the area immediately adjacent to this lift shaft. So they're preparing the robots to go down, working with them when they come back up. But the idea is that there's a barrier that the robots never cross and the people never cross. And there's only one place in the plant where they can meet, and that enables us to prevent the spread of radioactive contamination. Once the robots are down there, everything is being done by people controlling these robots. And actually, although we initially began by having them controlling from just above, later in the project, we were controlling them from several kilometers away on occasion. And you can see this environment's not a terribly friendly place. All of this stuff you can see on the floor is, well, I assume silt and ash from the aftermath of the meltdown at 3 Mile Island. It's certainly going to be pretty nasty stuff, pretty radioactive, not something that people want to be dealing with. But you can see how, because we don't need to worry about the health of the robots as we would with people, we can just get stuck in. So we can start very quickly doing tasks like, in this case, removing some debris that's getting in the way of another robot, or using tools to go and map and measure and explore this so that we can give a really comprehensive data set to the team that are now going to plan for the decommissioning of this. So I would say, I think this job took us about 3 weeks. I think if you were doing it using people, it would really be a multi-year job, because you'd have to treat it more like mining. You'd have to, piece by piece, go in and make each little bit safe before you could access the next bit. It would be a really slow, laborious job, and you would be exposing people to radiation. So by doing it with robots, we've enabled, I would say, at least an order of magnitude cost reduction, at least an order of magnitude speed up, and absolutely no one got exposed to radiation. So this is a huge impact, and this is just a single project. Um, stuck. Oh, there we go. So, as I said, one of the things I really like about these awards is that they are focusing on the measurable. So your story has to be backed up by data, and that the things that are measured, the growth of the business, are exactly what motivates us. So that story, that long-term vision for Createch that I told you before about trying to use the technology now, but we're really trying to embody a way of working to demonstrate that that can be sustainable and self-funding and growing. The growth is really the metric that we follow, and having that measured by the awards is very important. So this is a timeline of significant events over the life of the business. The purple line shows how the team has grown, the pink lines how the total revenue's grown, and then the green line is exports. So you can see how exports over time have grown with the business, but have actually in recent years really started to drive that big tick up in growth that we've seen in the last couple of years. In 2018 and 2019, you can see that we won our first two Greens Awards for international trade was first actually, and then subsequently innovation. So as of this year, if we hadn't won another one, we wouldn't have been able to use that logo anymore because, of course, the award is limited to 5 years. And that's the final thing that I really like about these awards. It's not something that happened to you once. You either do or don't have the award currently. So that time limited effect and the time limited right to use the King's Award branding is something that I think works really well. It's a badge of performance, of reputability, of solidity, but it's a time limited badge. You need to revalidate it. You need to apply again after enough time has elapsed since the original application if you want to be able to continue to use it, which means you've got to be continuously innovative to continuously have innovation awards. And that's us. So I'm extremely proud that we've managed to win the Innovation Award again. I'm hoping that next year we might be able to also win our International Trade Award again, because we've got really quite a significant growth in international trade over the same period. And if we can achieve that, I'm going to be extremely proud of it. So the benefits, well, I think we've heard all of the benefits once or twice already, and I would certainly support everything that's been said. I've said, recognition I think is important. It's you don't actually necessarily get a lot of public recognition for the things that we value as a business, for that sustainable, ambitious growth through innovation. The two awards that I've mentioned are a really good fit for that. So that's a really nice thing. And I think it's probably telling that while we have won various other awards in the past, I don't think we've applied for anything since we won our first Queen's Award other than other Queen's or King's Awards. Quite telling. It certainly helps promote the business. And that's particularly true internationally. Of course, you've got to, it's not passive, you've got to use it yourself to promote the business internationally. But that's been very meaningful for us. And in particular, in the fields where we work, we're often working within the context of a government-to-government relationship. And the awards fit really well into that sort of relationship because there's always a diplomatic component to what you're doing. There's always a sense in which you're representing yourself, but you're representing the UK as well. And so having that validation that says your business has been scrutinized and been found worthy of that, and that's recognized with a demonstrable mark, really helps people understand that you're part of the UK team, not simply riding on the coattails of the government-to-government relationship. And I do believe it has a really significant impact internally, which really comes from that recognition. But as I said, something that I personally feel like I get a morale boost from these awards, and not just when we receive them, but actually just in seeing that mark associated with the company on a basis gives me a lift. And I think that does flow through the whole business. and helps us remind us what we're really doing this for. So that's all I wanted to say. As ever, very happy to answer any questions you might have.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt, for that really useful insight, and great to include the video as well, which brings it all to life a little bit in terms of what you were talking about. So thank you. So we're into the last 15 minutes of the session now. So please do put your questions in the chat, or raise your virtual hand if you'd like to ask a question of any of the speakers today. I'd like to, whilst we're waiting for questions to come through, I'd just like to kick us off with a question for both Matt and Daniel, just around just an observation, I suppose, in that you've both clearly evidenced the fact that you've had multiple projects which have helped you to be successful with your application. So I would actually say, you know, for sustainable development and for innovation, it's for both of you. Would you say it's kind of at the heart of the business? Therefore, in some ways, has that helped you to actually work your way through the application, because you weren't pinning it all on one small activity? It was actually integral to everything. Matt first, and then Daniel.
Well, I would say that, yeah, so there is the text part of the application is about telling a story, and the structure of the application really does lend itself towards that. So it does tend to look like a story. And I think things that flow logically from one thing to the next and sound like a description of the whole business are going to be more compelling. I couldn't really comment as to whether that's an essential feature, but I think it certainly helps you to write a compelling narrative.
Thanks, Matt. Daniel?
Yeah, fascinating to hear Matt's story. Really interesting. Thank you. Yes, I think, you know, we've always sort of tried to evolve as we've gone along, and that's always given us a new narrative, and that's certainly helped us with the second application. I think again, having that I think that time limited badge, as Matt described, is really interesting way of thinking about it, because again, after 5 years you can reassess, look where you've got to, and then if you're able to reapply, then that's great. But I think I think as a business, we're always looking at new things. We're always horizon scanning, and that helps us you know, to look forwards, and certainly it's given us plenty to talk about in the application.
Thanks, Daniel. And for Chloe and Dennis, I mean, I'm guessing having that weight of evidence, both of the successful businesses are obviously able to evidence numerous examples of activity that have, you know, helped them with being successful. Is that something that the panel look for, that kind of consistent, ongoing commitment to, in this case, sustainable development and innovation?
Yeah, so I think it would depend on what you are applying for. So with sustainable development, it could be a product or a service, but even if it is a product, the assessors would look to see that the company is sustainable throughout, and does have those sustainability aspects within the whole company, and not just in a particular product that they have produced. Innovation is slightly separate, because it might be that it is a one-off product that you have produced that is very innovative. However, as I think Matt mentioned, if you have one in the past for innovation and you have a particular product, if you then go on to apply again, you would need to be able to show that that innovation has progressed in some way and has been developed to make it more innovative than when you first were recognised with the award. So that would be how those two categories do differ a little bit. It could also be a service, as well. So you might have an innovative service, in which case they would be looking to have that innovation throughout the service. So it does depend whether you are applying for a particular product or a service or sort of initiative. So an example would be if you have quite an innovative distribution service that you offer that's quite different to others in your sector, it stands out above your competitors. And if you have quite an innovative service, the assessors would look to see how that is innovative from beginning to end. So it would depend whether it's an actual product or the service that you're applying for. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe.
can I just add something to what Chloe has just said? So if what the assessors are looking for is, if you previously applied, they will read through your previous application, and they will see what the application and what they will be looking for is additional features and functionalities that have been application or innovation. Just an additional point.
Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, just a related question in a way to Matt in terms of your application. I mentioned that seeing the video was really helpful. I'm guessing you couldn't include the video, could you, within your application? How difficult was it for you in such a technical business to actually do that plain English piece of making sure that it was understandable and accessible to the panel?
I would say it was, well, for our application, that was the hardest part, really, trying to get across in words something which was potentially quite technical, could even be a little bit abstract. But I think generally, if you're being successful with a technology, you'll be able to do that. You'll be doing that with your customers anyway. So you'll have a way of explaining it that doesn't require you to have a PhD in robotics, basically.
Chloe?
Thank you. Yeah, that is very true. And I think one thing we would always suggest is having someone external to your company read through the application. You may not wish to share your financial part with them, but more the narrative, just to check that it does make sense and you haven't included too much technical jargon or acronyms that our assessors may not understand. You can add pictures and videos as part of the application to support. However, we can't guarantee that the assessors will look at all of them. So what we always say is anything that's important and is vital to the application, include it in the writing, in the word limit. But then if there's any pictures or videos that would just support the application, you can add those, but please note those won't be marked. So that's just to provide a bit of a wider context. But we would always say try to explain it the best you can in the written part of the application, because we can't guarantee that the assessors will look at all of the attachments, but there is an option to do that if you wish to.
Thanks, Chloe. And just a follow-up, in terms of that external support, is that something that can still be provided at a local level through the subcommittee and through the lieutenancy? Is that something that's available?
Yes. Yeah, so it does depend on the lieutenancy to the level of support that they can offer. But I believe most lieutenancies are happy to provide that local level support. We're very happy to answer any questions on the helpline, but what we can't do is look through your application, or sort of, you can't submit a practice example answer to us. So that is where we would say perhaps reach out to your local lieutenancy or a current winner if they're happy to help you as well.
Dennis?
You're on mute.
You're on
Dennis.
mute.
Sorry. Yeah, just to add, we have provided briefing sessions and training sessions to the lieutenancies, to the deputy lieutenants, and most of the deputy lieutenants are businessmen with a lot of experience. And we've run sessions with them. We've also put them in touch with the with these events that we ran. 2 events in May. We had the assessing teams speak directly about what they were looking for in a good application. So so as Chloe has said, the lieutenancies can offer you that support. That we do provide advice to businesses that do ring, as a helpline is always busy, and and our mailbox. But the lieutenancies do get in touch with us if they have a difficult question, and we provide that guidance.
Thank you, Dennis. So we'll share the slides to everyone that's attended today, and that has the contact details in. But obviously, you can feel free to follow up with ourselves as well, and we can make any local introductions if that's helpful. If you do want some support with a second pair of eyes on your application, as I think everyone said, it can be really helpful. So thanks for that. I'm not seeing any raised hands. Andrew, would you got a question?
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Paul. And first of all, thanks to Matt and Daniel for sharing that. It's really inspiring to hear, and also thanks Chloe and Dennis for a really good session this afternoon. My question really is about that linking up with the lieutenants and Matt or Daniel, did you use that? And second question really is maybe to Paul, is that something that we would try and explore with yourself about the contacts with them lieutenants?
Matt, do you want to come in first?
Well, yeah, so just trying to think. So certainly the first time we applied, we hadn't. So I didn't know the lieutenant at that point. In fact, I think I'm fairly sure I didn't even know the lieutenant existed at that point, if I'm honest. So I don't think we got any input then. And I think nor the second time, although after that first time we did get to know the previous Lord Lieutenant quite well. So we remained in contact with Claire over the years after that, and I always found her a very helpful person to talk to and a great advocate for connecting local businesses together and supporting local businesses. Since then, I suppose we've ended up in a slightly weird situation with regard to that, because it so happened that one of the founders of React, the original business that I mentioned, after retiring from the business, was made a deputy lieutenant. So that's given us quite a good connection through that route. So I guess I don't necessarily keep a track of when I'm talking to Pete or when I'm talking to the deputy Lord Lieutenant. But I would certainly think that they would be very helpful, very insightful, and even if they couldn't help you with your application, they're certainly people you should be willing to spend some time with, who will do a lot. Business as an important part of Cumbria.
Thanks, Matt. And just before I come to Daniel, I think we should say we've got Susanna with us, who I think is involved with the Lieutenant's office, aren't you, Susanna? Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, I'm here actually with my colleague Paul. We're listening into the background, and thank you all very much for all your information today. It's fantastic. Just to say that Paul and I are always here if we could be of any assistance, and we also have a King's Award for Enterprise committee with deputy lieutenants who are also helpful. So I'll put our details in the chat.
That's great. Thanks,
Thank you.
Susanna. Thank you. Daniel, is that a service you took up and offer?
Not officially. We did talk to two friends. One who applied successfully and was very, very helpful. The other one who'd actually applied unsuccessfully, and then again she came up with some fantastic angles on how our application could be bettered. But she has now gone on to become a deputy lieutenant. So yeah, but at that point she wasn't. Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Matt, and Susanna as well. Hopefully that's helped Andrew with your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We've just got a couple of minutes left before we wrap up. I'm not seeing any immediate hands. So I had one question again for Chloe and Dennis, and it was around the kind of the background to applications now. I know previously it's been difficult for some businesses because of COVID, because you have to be able to provide kind of evidence of growth over a period of time. But I'm guessing it's a little bit easier now, is it? Now we're in that post-COVID period. People are not necessarily in a position where sales might have dipped, for example, for a period. Is that something you've seen in the last 12 months?
Yes. So since COVID, we still have the 3-year and the 6-year period of the international trade application. So as Dennis said, the 3 years looks at a steep growth and the 6 years looks at a more substantial increase. So what we would suggest, if you have had a dip during your COVID years, unfortunately, we don't accept dips the last couple of years going forward. We did have that point through COVID where it was allowed, but now we're post-COVID a few years, we are looking to have no dips. So what we would suggest is if you did have a slightly lower year for COVID, those COVID years, you use that as your first year of entry, for example. So if you are looking at 3 years, maybe 2021, 2022 and 2023, your 2021 figures may have been lower than you are used to. However, from 21 to 22, you've had an increase, and from 22 to 23, you've had an increase. So that is what we would say to have a look at, because we don't look at the figures before those 3 years. For the 6-year period, you might have had a slower increase, so it might have slowed down during those COVID years. You don't have a dip, but it might not have been as steep. And then the last 3 years, you have had a steep increase, and that would show over the 6 years how it's kind of had a steadier incline at the beginning and then has grown slightly. But I'll just let Dennis come in if he has anything else to say on that one.
Yeah, sorry. What we did was, with the COVID years, we had allowed the businesses to wind back. But the panel judges did say that they wanted to see more up-to-date figures. So from 2023, they could actually use figures from 2020 prior to that. But then, of course, now we've come in. But Chloe's just told you exactly what we think. So we always suggest to people that they start with that dip year as the year, and then go. And I mentioned we get a lot of questions on is there an actual percentage increase? But again, it varies on the sector. It varies on the thing, on the size of the business as well. But and it's all, and the whole process is governed under a royal warrant. Even the categories, we get all these sort of people, even the little gods all over the place saying we can do a different category, but we can't. It has to be what is stated in the royal warrant. And there was a new royal warrant in 2023 September, which now governs this process.
Thank you both. I think it's important, isn't it, to get the advice as you're developing your application to address those areas. But thank you for that. We'll give the final quick question to Andrew, who's been waiting patiently before we wrap up. So hopefully it is a fairly quick one, Andrew.
Well, to be honest, this response to that reply from Chloe, right? You guys are Department of Business and Trade. My business has been going for 17 years. I work all over the world. You're not taking into account Brexit and trying to build a business back after all that, and then put my next 2 years in is absolutely useless. Absolutely useless to a small business. You need to, in the end, you should take into account, if you look at my accounts years ago, absolutely flying off the charts. Because of Brexit and then COVID, I'm a small business. Nobody helped me. I had to pay my staff. You need to take that into account. If I've won awards for what I do. Yeah, and now I can't enter it because you basically, you need to change the rules. There's too many businesses out there that could apply for this, which would help them get back on their feet. So
thanks, Andrew.
You make the rules, so why don't you actually help us?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, appreciate the concerns there. I think it is things that have been flagged before. I think Chloe and Dennis have fed back concerns previously that have been raised. So it is understood. I do understand your concern there. So let's see if there's anything we can do away from the meeting that can maybe look at what you could look at doing, because you're right, there will be other people who've experienced that difficult period as well, particularly for those smaller and micro businesses. So happy to pick up away from the call. Thank you. Yeah. So thanks everyone. We've gone over time, so apologies for that, but thanks everyone for your attendance. Thank you to all our speakers, and as I think Lucy's just put in the chat, we will share the slides and the follow-up info for anyone that wants to have any follow-up discussions. So thanks again everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.